Curtis, you gonna film? Okay.
That's what I was told.
All right, so we are being filmed. With that, we'll call our meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, we entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion and support. Last chance for comments or questions. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion's carried. We have an agenda. Roll call. Are we done?
We are done.
Thank you. Next up is Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone please rise and join us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, thank you. Welcome, Roxanne.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we entertain a motion for the approval of the February 24, 2026 regular meeting minutes.
Move approval.
Support. Got a motion support. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Now we'll move into our work session, which I presume you're going to lead this, Eric?
Yes, can give the commissioners that haven't been involved in all the conversations at this point with the County Parks Board. They have approached us and other communities in the county about the construction of a splash pad. That's for
the commission.
Okay.
we're looking at these pieces right here.
Okay, thank
Do you
you.
need a vote to go into work session or no?
It's on
No,
there.
it's on the agenda.
So they've reached out to us. The mayor and myself have had some sit-downs with members of the County Parks Board about the idea and thoughts of bringing them. Like I said, they've reached out to other communities to put one there, so they're looking at doing one. What you have in front of you, we've told them we're willing to talk and take a look at it, but we have to bring you into the fold and get your opinions out of it as well. The committee or the Parks Board has provided us some information on what they are thinking about for the size and type of splash pad. And also provided a couple of communities and their usage rates of water, so we could take a look at that more detail. They did provide us information from Carson City, Emily City, and then the Saginaw County Parks. And the reason why they provided those is that the park splash pad is similar in size to what they're looking at. And if you turn to your next page, which is kind of just a elevation drawing of what that pad would look like. And then the third page is from Fowler. They just installed one, I believe this one was last year. The size that would include, so you can have a site plan of what that layout would look like. Their indication to us this far, and nothing's in writing or anything, is that they would pay for the construction of it and pay for the maintenance of it, meaning that the opening, closing, cleaning, anything that needs to be done with it maintenance-wise would be done by their personnel at the Parks Board. What they're saying from our side, what they would ask from any community that would take and then put the splash pad in, would be to pay for the water and the electricity. So from that standpoint, the items will be in the details of what do you mean when you start writing things down. It's all talk right now. What do you mean by maintenance? And yeah, because people will come to us, they will knock on our door if it's not quite the way it should be or they like to be, so they will knock on our door. So we got to make sure that's clear if we proceed down that path, that this is your maintenance. We're basically going to be leasing you a piece of land to put this on, and then we would, as a city, pay for water and electricity. But, so if that is the case, all that being equal, and that was, worked out from an agreement standpoint, what would that mean for costs and usage of water? Emily City uses 93,000 gallons of water per month for their system. And their system is it pumps, and then it doesn't go into a recycling system, it goes into sanitary sewers, the sanitary system. Being that's a chlorinated water, it cannot just be run off and put into the storm drain, it has to go into the sanitary sewer. So it would come off of there, go into the sanitary sewer. The reason they're looking at that process as opposed to a recycling process like you'd see in a pool or something, there's a lot more expensive, and they add another 120,000 to what this is cost. I should have said that. They're estimating this cost to be around 350,000, give or take in there. And then if you were to add a recycling system in that, you're adding another 120,000 is what they estimated to add that. So they're looking at just it would pump, you do your spray, and then it go into the sanitary sewer system.
That was one thing that Tim made. I got accosted by Tim Lambrecht at church on Sunday, who wanted to tell me all about it. The main difference in this and some of the others is this is using fresh water. This is not swimming pool water. It's not being cleaned and recirculated. It's fresh water, open hose.
Yep. And that's the ones that are in the packet here. That's the type of system these are. And then Breckenridge, if any folks have been over to Breckenridge, it's the same type of system. And the big reason is, when Greg and I met with them, is the testing part of it. If you have a recycling system, you have to treat it just like a swimming pool. You're testing it twice a day, every day.
Chemicals added and the whole thing.
Added the whole thing. So that's why they're looking at this process, and that's why, the question that came back from our side was like, well, how many gallons of water are we using, to make that work? Well, it takes at this point now. All right, so Carson City, we're looking at what they have there is 93,000 gallons per month. So if you look at the scenario and look at what our retail costs are for water and for our ready-to-serve, what we charge for the meter size that we all pay. And just for information, the 3 restrooms that we have across our parks, we pay for the water at the retail rate, and we do have I think Jim told me the Conservation Park is a 1-inch meter, and the other 2 are 3/4 inch meters. So being this size here, and we don't know what size meter it would need, so I did include a size for the cost for a 2-inch, 3-inch, and 4-inch meter. For the Carson City splash pad, using our rates, we would be looking at $541 in a month for water use, for water costs. But then you add on the cost for the water meter, depending on if we need 2, 3, and 4. And I did add those just for your information. And then looking at each one of these as a 4-month season, opening in Memorial Day weekend and closing on Labor Day weekend. And they did mention that in the information that they did provide on the other ones. That's kind of how we look at them. So just to give us a month to look at, 4-month season, the 2-inch meter for the whole year, you're looking at just about $3,000. The 3-inch meter, $3,700, and a 4-inch meter, you're looking at $4,800, almost $4,900 a year in water costs. Now, I don't know what the electricity would cost on that. I don't have numbers, and they didn't give us any estimates at this point what the electricity would cost. Emily City, of course, not one of these was monthly.
Exactly.
Emily City was gallons for the year, and they have had theirs open for 3 years, and they've been averaging 910,000 gallons per year. So that breaks out to 227,500 gallons per month for those 4-month period. So for water costs, $1,191, but then when you add in the 4 months and the different meter charges, 2-inch for a year of water, we got $5,400, 3-inch meter at $6,300, and a 4-inch meter at $7,400, almost $7,500.
Can I ask a question? The cost of the meter and stuff, that's basically in what we're calling ready to serve,
Ready to
right?
serve,
Okay,
that's right.
and then the other is the cost of the water.
The actual use of the water
Okay.
itself.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other of these splash pads through the county parks like
No.
this? This would be the first.
To be the first.
And there's the reason that we pay towards the county parks, correct?
Yes.
And so why we would have to pay these expenses too? Is it just because it'd be the benefit of having it in our,
That is correct.
City?
It was when we had the discussions, their thought was if they're paying, they'll pay for the construction, the maintenance, and then our skin in the game was the word that was used, would be the water used and the electricity.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And the third one they provided was Saginaw County Parks, which is a heavily used splash pad. They go through 60,000 gallons in a day. So breaking those all out on the same per 2, 3, 4 inch meters, their cost per season underneath our rates would be $37,000, $38,000, and then just over $39,000 for those different size meters. And like we mentioned, our city bathrooms, we do pay ready to serve, and we do pay the retail rates for our bathrooms. And like I mentioned, 2 of the bathrooms, conservation and Red Park, are 3/4 inch, and the conservation's 1 inch. And then, as you mentioned, asked there, Roxanne, the county millage rates, we have 2 millages that we send, that we collect here locally, that's been voted on by all the residents of Gratiot County. We have a county parks millage, and the millage rate for 2025 is .3494, which generates just under $74,000 citywide. That goes down to support the county park system. And then we have a county road patrol through the sheriff, and that is at .4486, and that generates $94,000, just about $95,000 a year. That gets sent down to support road patrol at the sheriff's level. And also what I've just put in here, just our resolution that we approved our yearly, we'll be doing this again in May, the water rates and sewer rates, and the ready to serve fees, the resolution that we approve is there for your information as well. So that's where we generate those numbers for the cost per gallon and what it costs for each meter size. The map that we have here is a utility map. Part of the discussion is where you put it, and do you have capabilities or access to water and sewer. In Wright Park, it's the section that used to be, if you've been around long enough, where the tennis courts used to be, and then they would freeze it, and it would be an ice skating rink. That is where we've kind of talked about it at this point. You do have water, a 4-inch water main that is up in this area, and we do have, like we mentioned, our new bathrooms are there that's connected to that, and we do have a sanitary sewer line there that is available that could be connected into. That obviously would be part of their construction costs if that was to move forward, but there is access there to do that if that would move forward. From a staff standpoint, it's been a long discussion back, we've talked about splash pads in the past. It's always been one, construction costs. It's much more expensive than, we had our first discussion with them. It was only gonna cost this much, and then it came back when they were like, oh gosh, it's $300,000, $350,000. So that, they're not cheap to build. Maintenance, the system's a little bit different, so you're not doing the testing all the time, but there still is cleaning that has to be done, because if not, that little green stuff starts to grow if you're not, bleaching it and those sort of things. So from our perspective, like we've already mentioned, when things aren't looking as nice as people think they should, or something, they're going to be calling us before we, call them and say, well, you need to come up and clean something or fix something. They aren't on all the time. They have like a little button to push for the different types of amenities that are there. So if a button's not working, they'll need to send up somebody or send in a vendor to take care of it. But in the meantime, people are going to look at us, even though it's in our park, so sometimes people just don't understand the nuances that they're
Oh,
leasing.
they surely will not understand the nuances.
That we're leasing a piece of property to them, and we're paying the water and electricity, and they're responsible for the maintenance, so it might take a day or so, or whatever it may be,
Sure.
for them to come up and fix something, or whatever their cleaning schedule is, and you might have to, if it's not clean regularly enough, you might have to shut it down. And you can't be out there unless it's clean, so those are the concerns.
And all of the other ones that I've ever been exposed to, Breckenridge and Mount Pleasant especially, there's a great deal of vandalism as well. Kids stick screwdrivers down into the,
Thanks, Roger, giving the ideas.
I know, they've already got the ideas. And spray painting on the equipment and all that kind of thing. There's a great deal of vandalism. One of the, maybe it was Breckenridge, I'm not sure, somebody shut theirs down one year simply because of vandalism. It kept on getting broken, so. And I mean, that's just another consideration, if they're gonna take care of maintenance and stuff on it.
Well, and
they're
what's
gonna have
the, I don't know this, liability like with a regular park, or, I mean, this is water and slips and falls and all that kind of stuff. It's just, you use it, you're taking your chances?
Well, it would fall underneath well, obviously, we'd be on.
It'd be our
on the hook for that,
responsibility.
and then so would
Okay.
they, because it would be their asset
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
So, but still would fall under our.
But so you don't have to have anybody on hand at all times,
No, that is one of the. I
even though
guess
it's
another
water? Okay.
Positive things is that you don't need a lifeguard on duty like, the pool in St. Louis or at the school or something like that, so.
It's slip and fall hazard.
Right.
Yeah.
We have liabilities all over the parks. I mean,
Sure.
It's just.
Same thing happens.
Presumably, this would be an increased liability.
Sure.
Yep, exactly, yep,
So you want to define that in the agreement as well.
yep, exactly.
When it gets down to the, as you said, I think the actual negotiations, defining terms, defining who's doing what and where the responsibilities.
Are they talking on the east side or on the west side of the,
West.
the west side, okay. Because that's kind of where I thought it would be.
Is that?
That's the flat ground area.
Yeah.
Used to be tennis courts. So
Yeah.
it's-
Not to interrupt, I just want to make sure you're clear. I don't know if that area will work simply because if it goes into that existing sanitary that runs to that restroom, that's relatively shallow. That's only like 2 to 2.5 feet deep. So I don't, unless they're going to come up with a system to force it up, it's not going to go into that. So it won't just naturally gravity into that sanitary lateral if that's where it is indeed proposed and that's where people like it. Just want to throw that out there just so.
Are they mostly center drain or perimeter drain on those?
You can probably do it either way, however it's designed.
There are probably multiple drains, I would think, with, you've got
Yeah.
multiple features around the
Yeah.
thing. I would guess there's multiple, so if one gets clogged,
Yeah,
you're
true.
not out of business, right?
Wait, babe.
But, there's another good question.
But we've had 4 discussions and some emails back and forth.
Yeah.
So they were asking what we thought, and it's just like, well, we need to talk to full board here, so this is not a.
Even though it's a gift horse, it
Yeah.
still doesn't come without strings.
Exactly. So, just wanted to provide the information we have right now and get everyone's feedback.
I think it's interesting they use the term skin in the game, because basically the city of Alma is going to pay for it twice in terms of a millage and then the water. So it's not, we've already got skin in the game because we paid the millage. So I think that's interesting.
Well,
take on it.
I think from their perspective, my assessment is, no matter which, if anybody takes it, if they take it up on the offer, it would help to alleviate the conversation of, why didn't my city get it, right? Because at least the city that got it is paying something.
Additional.
Yeah, if it's us, then St. Louis Ithaca, can say that. And I don't know the logic behind it, because my initial assessment, was we're paying in $74,000 for this countywide millage. I think, to me, the logical thing with that would be to just give us part of our money back, 80 or 90% of our money back, and let us choose whatever our citizens want for our parks. Maybe it's a water feature, maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, there's other priorities that people have mentioned to us over time. That's my first reaction. In the conversations with the Parks Committee, and if the county commission is on board, and, they're determined it's going to go somewhere, then, yeah, why wouldn't we take it? I mean, it's $300,000 asset that, we can provide to our citizens, I'm sure it would get used. I'm not opposed to the idea, but you know, if it's got to go somewhere, then yeah, let's have it in Elma. But I don't know. I don't know how everybody else feels about it. If you've had time to digest it or have any questions, or
I'd be willing to look at a real proposal and see exactly the way it's gonna, this, you know, sounds good in theory, we haven't seen it on paper.
well, no, and you'd have to define. I mean, I just was making some notes as Eric was talking too, and we thought about things. You know, this, even the 139 gallons per minute they're talking about, is that all features running concurrently? Is that, so that's the maximum flow? And I don't know what kind of shape the pipe's in. Does it, you know, to accommodate that? Or is that, maybe it's small, maybe it's large, I don't know. Defining all the maintenance things, you know, does it include cleaning? Or is it just when a pump breaks, we're gonna do that, but if the sprinkler heads go bad, they're clogged, you know, that's on you, or something like that. There's all kinds of little things that, and you know, if one feature, for whatever reason, gets broken, can we shut down one feature and still run the others? I don't know how the design of the operation is. And then somebody else mentioned insurance. You know, do we co-insure it? Does the county help pay insurance on the thing? Or is that on us as well? Because that was not covered in our initial conversations at least, so.
And vandalism.
Probably, vandalism is another one that.
Yeah.
Which my assumption would be that's maintenance.
Yeah.
Maintaining. If you're in a park.
I agree, and just want to make sure.
But no assuming, yeah.
You'd want to,
And that's why- and
define all these things.
I'm not against, I mean, I'm feeling like curmudgeon-y here, and I don't want, I mean, I'm just giving the other side of it to be, because my
No,
initial.
we want both sides. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, and
everybody-
that's the thing, I mean, my initial thought is, if the county has so much, and I'm trying to be careful because I don't, if the county has this extra money to look for something to do, then I kind of feel like because this seems like a lot of money for these, you know, county parks that are a drive to get to, that they should be putting one in on and they're covering the whole thing in each of the places.
Well, and then they did mention,
But I mean, without
one of the
us having
discussions,
to pay
putting one in
extra.
each community.
Yeah, okay,
If they could-
right, I feel, yeah, and I don't know the finances, and I'm not truly trying to be difficult, but I feel like we have had conversations for a long time about the money that's generated for the county parks, and that a lot of our citizens aren't able to use those, and that it would be nice to have something that uses that money in, but the paying twice kind of thing is that's, I guess, kind of what's souring me on it. I'm not against it. I think it's nice, it would be nice to have something in each smaller community where people who don't have means of transportation to get to the county parks would have something to use with water, you know.
Yeah, the county parks are great, not to say anything against them. They're fabulous. I mean, they're in great shape, they're beautiful.
But it was a trip for me to load up my children and go there the few times that we did.
Well, both of them are farther away from the population centers of the county. I mean, most of the population
and money for
is up here in the northeast corner of the county. And those two parks are, you know, both west and south.
Yeah, and I just know, you know, our population, there's quite a few families that don't have a vehicle or money to.
Or, you know, this is something that you could take, you know, if you had
Go to the
kids.
park with your
You could go to the park for a couple hours, be back home,
Correct.
and,
Yes.
you know, make it for nap time or dinner
Yeah.
or whatever's next.
Yeah.
A trip to the county park, quite often it's a full day excursion by the time you
Right.
load the kids in the car and all the gear.
And take
and-
everything that you possibly need for
Yeah.
that many hours.
I remember filling the van to go, you know, a couple miles.
I could stay 3 months or stay an afternoon. It was the same amount of things
Yeah.
that I needed to pack.
But the county parks are very well maintained.
Oh, they're
Yes.
absolutely gorgeous.
But that, I
Don't
I
mean
think
to
that's
disparage those at
useful
all.
to
But they
note
also
as we think
have
about maintenance of
paid
this and
people that
everything.
are there. I mean, I have
Yeah.
a friend who worked there. Worked in the school and worked there in the summer because they have a team that is there. And that's what my concern is that we're going to be looked at negatively because we're not supposed to be the team, but it's here and we're not going to have a team. And that's why I was asking if someone was going to be at the, the things happen all the time. I mean, and are they, I know they were, you have things that happen that your full team isn't there at the county parks, but they're going to send somebody from one of the county parks out to Alma to take care of whatever the issue is.
Presumably, that would be, it'd be their staff.
I would make a contingency too, like if there's a reported issue, because you're gonna hear about it, Eric, most of the time. If it's not handled in a certain amount of time, if we do handle it, we're billing back the county for that services. I mean, we do it all the time here with, transferring from different departments, doing different work. I think it would be treated the same way. Hey, we have an issue here, it hasn't been resolved. We will do it, here's the bill.
And some things may be more economically done that way.
Yes,
It may make
exactly.
sense
But do
for
we
some of
have
those
people
things.
that would be able to,
Well, that's another question.
That's just
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
And part of the discussion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, they do want to bring something more north, because that was part of the discussion we had, was to, there is a realization and a understanding that, yes, population centers up, Ithaca north, and then a little bit east, a little bit west of us. That putting something in that general vicinity, that's, they're offering it to other communities, would be a benefit to those folks who don't have to drive as far. And like as Greg mentioned, if there's like this is going to happen in one of the communities, well, if we can work out the details, if that's what we do, then it does make sense to have it here so our people can walk. We're a walkable community, ride their bikes down to it, that sort of thing.
I think it's worth a good conversation. The dilemma has always been in our parks and recreation discussions and stuff that we are part of the county and pay money into the county, and so that people in Alma can go and use the parks anywhere in the county, but the people in the county also come into the city. The city is part of the county as well, and should be looked on basically just as another chunk of real estate in the county. If they wanted to do something here, the money and all the county money has basically come from the windmills or the excess county money to pay for all the nice baseball diamonds and everything, and what they've done with Hubshire Park and stuff, which has been absolutely wonderful. But we should be as much a part of that just because we are part of the county as well. And so the money that we have paid into that, should be kind of ours to figure out what we want to do with. This might be a great idea. All the positive things that we have said about it, having it here in Alma and all that kind of thing, would be really cool. When we have done surveys under Parks and Recreation, what would you like the Alma Park District to provide? The two top things that we have gotten again and again and again are dog park and a splash park. I would love to see that. And we have said in the past, dog park is something we're kind of talking about and working on. Splash park ain't happening. We can't afford to spend that kind of money on a splash park. But if the county is willing to chip in and do it fairly and pick up all of these extraneous tabs that they're liable to see, I think it's worth a discussion. Amen.
Yeah, anecdotally, it's certainly something I've heard a lot of residents, or seen a lot of residents talking about, wanting in the community.
Yeah, and over the years, I don't know, did you have comments, Sonia? Or?
No.
Okay. Didn't want to leave you out. We've had that grant for parks programming, which has been very successful, and I forget the amount of the grant, it was less than 100 grand, wasn't it?
It was a 200.
Or 200,000? Well, over 3 years?
Over about 2.5 years by the time it was awarded to
And it was
us.
about 200,000 now?
323,000.
320, so roughly 100 grand a year.
We've been spending, last year we spent like 89,000 for the fiscal year. This year I think we're on track for like 107, so right around 100,000 a
And
year.
that has provided a lot of programming for our residents.
All a big plus.
Yeah, but again, that was a grant, that's funding is going to run out.
Yep.
If we had the cash that we were sending to the party or the county park system, would we choose to build a splash pad with it? Or are there other alternatives that our community would prefer? Not that they don't want a splash pad, it's a great thing, but you know, we don't provide, other than this grant, we haven't provided programming. That's one of the topics that we talked about years ago, remember, with the county parks was, you know, can you put some programming out in Elma, St. Louis, Ithaca, you know, and run some of these programs for us. Right now, we've got little leagues and some baseball, football things going on because parents volunteer, you know, they're over there whipping the diamond into shape because we can't afford to go over and do work on it. We don't have any staff time to do it, so parents are doing it. You know, parents raising money to build the playscape in Wright Avenue. You know, the city doesn't have the budget for those things, but the parents are stepping up and doing it, which is, you know, we're very grateful for. But, you know, I don't know if this would be our community's first choice if we really had the money itself to spend. Would that be what we pick? And that's, I would like to be confident that that would be the case before we go ahead with anything.
What's the life expectancy of a splash pad?
Which piece? You know, there's pumps, there's, yeah.
So you basically phase it out. Is it 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? How long is
We
it?
didn't have that discussion. I don't know.
How long is congruent
The pump,
millage?
they did mention the pumps were probably usually the first thing to need.
Probably the first major expense, and I would guess a pump is probably $10,000 to $20,000 or better. I don't have it.
If you want my answer, you're gonna look at 5 years probably for pumps.
Yeah.
The other thing is gonna be the drainage pipes. Just because I have a second here to talk, it's going to be vandalized, make no mistake. The bathrooms take a pounding. The concrete will be the other one. That's probably within, depends how it's built. It really does depend on how it's built. Probably 10, 15 years, but I don't know what kind of base they're gonna put under this, because these are all ways you can save money on the construction. So when I hear 150,000 for a budget, that's a low end. So
Oh, yeah.
I just want to throw that out there. So just guess how you will. But yeah, Greg's right. You're gonna look at drainage, you're gonna look at pumps, valves, that type of thing.
And then how long is the millage for?
Every 6 years, and I think they.
What happens if it doesn't get renewed?
And they don't have any money.
Who pays for the repairs and the maintenance?
We shut it
Well,
down.
you get.
We shut it down.
Then you look at like shutting down the asset. I mean, that's.
That's where I get at,
You
like,
either
they
find
would have to,
somebody-
they would have to fund that before the millage went away, like, hey, it didn't get renewed, there's a time period there when you know it's not getting renewed and you still have funds. And
Yeah, you could try and negotiate something like that, some kind of a wind down in the deal.
But are there
If that were
things
to-
structurally that are put in place that when things get outdated, that are still an asset, so to speak, for this, or is it just?
You mean like if it becomes no longer in use, is it usable for something else? I just wanna
Well,
make
no,
sure
I
we're clear
guess
on
I
what
was
we're
wondering,
talking
like, if you were laying pipes and connecting things, if there are things that are an asset that when you need to replace the pumps and the concrete, that it's still worth it to keep it going, or if it has a lifetime and then it's just done in 15 years.
It depends on what they use for piping,
Okay.
the type, or are they going to, what kind of cements they're going to use to fuse the pipe together, that type of thing.
Yeah, so
I
it's
would
parts.
think that, you
It's
know,
not a structural thing that's put in place that is designed to be 20 to 30 years as a,
Well, as Dave mentioned, you know, just the concrete itself.
Itself.
What do you put under it? If you put a nice sand base and compact it properly, it may be good for 50 years for kids playing on it. But if they do a poor job, it may crack and heave and be a safety issue in 5 years.
Right.
especially with the subgrade of the parks, Greg's right. If anybody's familiar with that, when we put in the playscape there a few years ago, that's all clay, and it's wet clay, because if anybody remembers the history, I bore people with history. That used to be the springs, natural heating springs, so that's always a wet spot. You're gonna wanna make sure you put the proper subbase in there. That looks probably to me like a minimum of 2 feet thick of stone, sand on top, because water's the enemy to everything. You hear me, you get bored on hearing me say on the streets. So it really does, it depends on the design, and when I hear that budget,
it's a.
I know what it costs to put in a basketball court, so it's, yeah, it depends on how it's
Yep, okay.
designed and constructed, but yes, you are gonna have assets to maintain on that, and it really does depend on the design and the selection of the equipment, like anything with
If the
playgrounds.
concrete goes bad, you're basically starting over, I think. You
Right,
know, I mean,
okay.
you might have some salvage value to the spray heads or something, but chances are you're really starting over.
This little picture, the diagram of the one for Fowlerville or wherever. I can't read that, but I'm guessing that that's involving at least 8 drains under each one of those features, 2 of them under it sometimes, which means those all have to feed into one pipe. There's got to be a real spider web of drains underneath that thing, which is problematic.
Access to clean outs. And the other thing with the cost, I'm going to go back on that one. If people will come in, I'm talking to Rogers on the Parks Board, but several people will come in and say, well, how come you can't put in new playscapes? They can't cost that much. I can go to Home Depot and buy one for $1,000. You're cheap. The difference between commercial grade and private. I don't know if this one is put in at a hotel where it's private grade, if it's something to where it's not a one-size-fits-all. You have residential grade, you have commercial grade, you have, with these splash pads, you may have industrial grade to where they're made to run all the time, like a water park as opposed to intermittently. And that's where I talk about the different types of valves, the pumps, that type of thing, drainage. It really does depend on how it's constructed, designed, and the intent.
Well, there's electronics too, because each of the features, you have to push a button and it runs for 2 minutes, so that you're not running 24/7. So there's electronics in there too, just to run the valves and. But again, that's
Is it
those
set up so
details.
like if somebody went out there at 11 PM, they can push the button and the water
You
comes
shut it
out,
off
you shut it
after
off,
certain times, and only
Okay.
you could limit the overall use, and then each item would have its own
Okay.
controls as well. I think it's typical.
That's what they mentioned, yeah, and
Okay.
they did describe that a little bit,
Okay.
like the time of year and then the hours of operation.
Okay, so
You
there
can
are
set
hours
those-
of operation.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can set those up. But there's like a million different ways of doing it. It's all about money.
Yes.
And how, yeah, it's all about.
Fancy as you want, yeah.
And so
Thank you.
I guess we could,
Continue discussion, is
Sure.
kind of what I'm
yes,
hearing.
yeah,
I would agree.
Sure, continue discussion.
Okay.
Yep.
But I think getting some of those maybe more exact
Yeah.
answers to some of those concerns that Roxanne, myself, Greg, that really everyone's brought up,
Yeah.
so.
And as far as, with Dave mentioning the details of what's being put in, if we have any say in how it's, I know it's their and our dime, but if it's not, it's gonna be, I don't know how to phrase it, but I think.
Yeah, you just hand it over to them and say, hey, it's your project, go to town, or.
Right, or do we have some more skin in the
Yeah.
game of our people?
And I would
taking
think
a
we'd
look at
want
what-
some kind of minimum standards. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
we've got some staff that
Minimum
understand some of these things, right?
We want some minimum
Some days, I mean, I know you need gravel and sand, but I
Yes,
don't know what
I don't-
proportions.
exactly.
I know there's different types of gravel, different types of sand that I don't
I'm very
understand.
limited, and I found out today that my 80-year-old house, that none of those third grounding plugs are actually grounded. So that was my today find.
Not unusual.
So the fact that we haven't burned down or electrocuted ourselves is nothing short of a miracle. So I want some minimum standards.
but just
You're not alone.
to say, I do appreciate the county and the county parks board to, taking this idea around.
Oh,
and talking
absolutely,
to all
yes.
of us.
It's a good idea.
So they are,
And I would
there are-
love
people are
something for
listening
our
that,
people. Yes, yes,
so
because we've been
just
complaining
wanna-
or talking about it for a long time, so I appreciate
The offer,
thought
at
of.
least, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And does it, with the renderings and when they get to that point, is it basically like, here it is, take it or leave it? Or is it like something where people in Alma could have like, hey, we would like to see maybe these types of things, and we can incorporate that as we go through the process? Or is that like, I don't know how involved the engineering is on it, I have no idea. Is it like, hey, here's the pad, you pick and choose these 20 things to put on here, or?
I'm sure there's, different features cost different amounts. I'm
Sure, how much
There's
input
probably some sort of, and you could do something like they did with the playscapes, they did give some community involvement. I would assume they'd want to do something like that, but we didn't get into that discussion. I'd want, if possible, put some, here's 5 different things you could
Sure,
choose.
some limitations on it,
Yeah.
or else I have 7,000
Yeah, the Castle Park was built that way.
Yeah.
Everybody had options as to how you wanted your park built.
You can't have all of those bladed, but maybe you get one really super nice feature and then the rest of them are a little more,
Yeah.
one great, one medium, and several lesser expensive, say. Would be, I would think would be the typical way to do it.
I would agree.
Devil's in the details.
Exactly.
Everything that everybody brings up, it's always the devil's in the details, right? So,
Okay.
okay.
We'll proceed accordingly to get some more details and talk more specifically. And I'll pull in Dave to have some discussions as well about, the actual logistics, if it can work in that area.
And another caveat, I think that we didn't even mention, this is brought to us, I believe, strictly by the County Parks Board. It would have to go through the county commission before they could spend the money or really truly make the offer to anybody as well. So I don't think at this point it's not a bona fide offer to anybody, so
And then,
just a heads up. It's a long way from coming to fruition.
just as,
Not gonna be here this
Not this
summer.
summer, no. Not this
Likely
summer.
no.
as a last second question, has there been any other sites considered?
I have not looked at other ones,
I mean, this one makes most sense, I think, but I just,
that's close to downtown, sidewalks all lead there.
Parking.
You got bathroom, 4 stalls that self-lock so people could change, kids could, so there's a lot of benefits to it, but
Playscapes there, so it kind of fits with the same age group.
there's parking there. But it has to work, for what, I don't know what they need, from sewer and water to really make it work too, so.
Thank you.
So yeah, and if you think of other things, certainly let Eric know and put them on the list when other questions pop up, because I'm sure they will. So, okay, thank you.
Can we take a quick break? I'm gonna go grab our other stuff.
Sure, time out.
Yep.
Yeah, I bought myself a grounding mat. And that's how to calm my nerves. And that's how I discovered there's no grounded outlet in my house, so
I found that out.
I could just like, put a wire.
Are we continuing?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so we're just off for a second. Now,
I'll make a motion to take a 5-minute break before, 10-minute break before.
a short recess.
A short recess.
I don't want to name a time if we can avoid it.
Okay, short recess
If we
before
miss the
we
time
return
Support.
to the
Okay, we have a
agenda.
motion to go into recess with support. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's carried. We're going into recess. We'll be back. Okay, we're back. We've got Eric back with us.
Yes.
So next on the agenda is our hearing, which is scheduled to be held not before 6 p.m. and it is 10 minutes before 6 at this point. So we entertain a motion to move one or more items forward into the schedule or into the agenda so that we can wait until 6 to hold our hearing, or after 6.
I move we hold just section D until after 6 o'clock. That's all.
So does that mean we just start at
Start, we
D?
can do other stuff
I don't-
now. We can move
So you're moving D down then to where?
to
Is that,
whatever is
Your
appropriate
intention?
of about 6 o'clock.
you gotta tell me a place.
Okay.
How about I motion we move section K to start the meeting,
Section K to above the...
above the public
Above
hearing.
D.
Above D.
So, there we go. Reports above D, okay. Which is reports of officers, boards, and committees. I believe we had a motion and support. Everybody understands the motion and support?
Yep.
Are there any comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. And we are now going to attack item K, reports of officers, boards, and committees. And under that section, commissioners may receive the following reports by one resolution, or any commissioner may remove any item within the section for individual discussion and vote. Before us this evening, we have the Downtown Development Authority, February 25, 2026 draft meeting minutes, the Planning Commission, March 2, 2026 draft meeting minutes, the Zoning Board of Appeals, March 3, 2026 draft meeting minutes, the Alma Transit February 2026 report, the Finance February 2026 report, and the City Manager's report. Your pleasure.
Move to receive 1 through 5.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion for 1 through 5. Does anybody have any comments or questions? I hear none. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, no. That motion is carried.
Move
Item
to
number
receive
6.
number 6.
Support.
We have motion support to receive number 6. Eric,
Yeah.
put it down.
Well,
You got at least 10
get
minutes.
10 minutes and then we
Well, you
come
can
back.
keep going. No, you can finish yours,
No,
because I
we'll
think
do
you
the
just
whole
have to
thing.
be after 6, yeah.
All right.
As long as we don't start the hearing before 6, we're
Correct.
fine.
Okay, alrighty. Pine River update, a couple things are underway. The State Street Dam feasibility study, the survey, the community survey is out there. I did provide the link in the newsletter. Please share that with everybody and anybody you know. To have them fill that out. It only takes about, at the most, 10 minutes. So if you're slow, it takes 10 minutes. So we appreciate doing that as part of the community engagement, and our Healthy Pine River Committee is working on that. The engineers, GEI consultants are still working on the front end engineering portion of it. At some point, it sounds like we'll probably have to do some sort of study or looking at the typical level of the river behind the impoundment. I guess there wasn't any numbers ever created for that, so at some point they'll have to look at that. Related to the quality of the impoundment in the river, we've had a couple meetings with St. Louis, Pine River Township, and Archaea Township, and we're talking about the greenery and the lily pads that are there, and is there anything that we could do to help with the aesthetics? So the health of it, but look at the aesthetics more or less, because the dam feasibility project's more on the health side of things. And kind of turned into, is there some sort of a treatment to look at knocking down some of those vegetation growths and that sort of thing. And we did reach out to a company to take a look at a few areas. And first, they were thinking more, the talk was more expansive of, hey, do we special assess? Things like, well, hold on, before you start going on that path, maybe we should look at doing something smaller scale and something that we can point to as public, i.e. like parks. So going from that standpoint, in your packet provided the maps for us here in the city of Alamo, looking at the boat launch area, and then to the west along the riverbank there, Conservation Park and Pine River Park there. Doing treatment there. In Archaea Township, the Luniac boat launch in that general area there. And then over in St. Louis, Pine River Township, Lapine Park. And then to the east, southeast, along the riverbank there. As looking at those areas as kind of a pilot to try this treatment to knock down the vegetation in that area. The company came back with a quote on, that cost us just under $10,000, $9,400 to treat those 3 areas for the season. There'd be 3 treatments, one in the spring, one in midsummer, and then one for the fall.
And this is the actual water, not the banks.
Yes, it'd be in the water, yes, to knock down the vegetation growth that's there. So, proof of concept to see if that,
Sure.
how that looks, because you don't want to go to people, hey, we got a way to knock down some vegetation along your bank to make it look nicer, but we got the special assessment, here's what it would cost, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So, looking at those numbers, it didn't scare anybody, the communities that we were talking with. But we did invite the county administrator to sit down and talk with them a little bit about what our thoughts were about, we got this dam feasibility project underway and trying to figure out long-term how to improve the health of the river. But in the meantime, these are our thoughts on aesthetics, because that's really what everybody sees and talks about most times anyway. And would the county in some way be willing to help share in the costs or whatever? They discussed it, and the county was willing to actually pick up the almost $10,000 for this pilot program.
Sure.
To see how it turns out, to be able to show that along our parks in these 3 communities that it did help, some of the vegetation, and continued use of this over the 3 to 5 years would make some dents in the way the river looks. and then maybe just spread that further in front of private residences and special assess those residences for treatment along the riverbank.
Eric, can I ask a question? I was unable to attend this meeting. They may have given it there, but do you know what the chemical would be?
I don't know that. I don't know that.
Because if it's a Roundup type thing, which is effectively Agent Orange.
Nope, it can't do that. No, exactly. Because part of this dollar amount is the contractor pulling, permits and everything.
Okay,
Legal.
all right.
It's very well regulated.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you just can't willy-nilly go in there and just start.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% safe.
No, I know. But as a person who's been there, done that, I don't want any part of that.
Yep. So with that, see, last Tuesday, the county did approve a resolution to pay for this pilot program in Eastern Parks. So I'd like to say thank you to them for investing in this. A partnership that between us, St. Louis, Arcata Township, Pine River Township, and now the county, looking at the aesthetics and the health of the river. So we do appreciate their investment in that. So
one question, and I apologize because I didn't make it to that meeting either, but it's coming from Healthy Pine River Group. I mean, they're part of this discussion. So I presume that means that the biologists from the college that are working with that group are on board with this particular chemical application? Or have they given any indication or opined on anything here?
Not that I'm
John Rogers,
not that I'm aware of.
Point about how environmentally safe this is.
Well, it has to be approved through EGO. So
That doesn't necessarily mean we want it in our community. I mean, they approved DDT at one point, so I'd just like to hear some
Yeah, I'd just like to know.
chemicals, people that know more than I do.
Yes, right. You know my feeling.
And I assume that they probably are aware of this and would already have raised objections if so, but.
And that's why we're looking at a small little section
Right.
to show if it's something that is workable, and so you're not just
right.
just going crazy with it. Just we're gonna spend $50,000 on something that. So we're just taking a little bit of piece and a pilot to take a look at it and see how the next time.
My thought is I don't want to say go ahead with this, then somebody from the college comes back and says, wait a minute, you should have talked to us.
Right.
We've got resources here. There's some very smart people that are working with Healthy Pine River.
Murray.
Yeah. And others.
Right, our clean water SRF bonding, staff had a conference call with our financial advisor dealing with the bond and our the attorney bond counsel. Discussed our 20.5 million, discussed the plans that the engineer is drawing up. It's not just, it's like we talked about in our goal setting and in other meetings, that doing everything is going to cost us more than 20.5. But there's a possibility that once we get the bids back in, that there may be some extra SRF money out there that a community didn't use or decided that they just couldn't follow through with the project.
That's happened before.
Yep, exactly. So we would know more at that time, but with the tight schedule that we have to get bids in and get things submitted to the state to get underway, we have 2 years to complete the project and submit all the final documentation like we are with the SRF drinking water side of things that we'll discuss in a little bit. If those aren't available, then we maybe need to be looking at the private market, as long as we could fit it in with our current rate structure that we have for our sewer charges. But if it's too far, depending on what it is, we'll have to make a decision here, this staff and the city commission, on what parts of the projects do we move forward with, and can we afford, say another $10 million worth of private funding to do another portion of the project within what we're charging in our rate fees right now. So what our bond counsel has recommended to keep everything on task and on schedule is at our next meeting that, and Curtis and Finance are working with the advisors right now on a number to bring back to this committee to say, board, to say a not to exceed number for what we'll bond. That doesn't mean we say it's $40-some million that we have to spend 40 million or bond 40 million. It's just that once we set that number, we have to set it soon, so the process can move forward. That's it. If it's 25 and we didn't ask for 25 at least, then we
You can always go less, you can't go more, right? Yeah.
So, but that's all going to be contingent upon if there's some extra SRF fundings or what we can afford when the bids come back, and maybe in the private market underneath our current rates. Our intention is not to recommend to this board to increase, our rates, because we have our 5-year plan that we put together, and we want to stick to that. So that's where we're at. So we'll have that at the next meeting for this board's consideration on a number of not to exceed for bonding purposes.
What year of our 5-year plan are we in? Is this 3?
This is
We're in 3, the next budget year will be 4.
Okay, so that 5-year plan is,
Come and do an end.
yeah,
come right in there.
look forward to.
Yes, something to look forward to. Prospect Building demolition, the land bank approved, the contractor received full bids and approved the low bid, and it's a Wanzi Tree Service here, a local company, to demo the Prospect Building. They should be getting started probably in the next 2 weeks with the asbestos abatement, and then most likely toward the end of April, early May for the actual demo of that building, and then that will be backfilled and seeded and just be a grass area. So that's finally getting that to that point with this. City Hall network cabling project. We officially, as of yesterday, finished up everything. Everything went really well. I was, expecting the worst and damage to but we only lost 2 tiles. So they were great to work with. Great, and they're supervisors, great communicators. I can't say enough good things about it, but like with any project, like the next day we had some folks say, hey, my computer's not working, and what happened? So they came back here on Monday and got them all hooked into the new Cat 6. Turns out that side of the building that we thought had been completely upgraded with the Cat 6 had not. There was still 5 strands of Cat 5 in there, so we unplugged everything that was Cat 5 and said, if no one's complaining, then it must be okay. And then the next day,
Then people go
but the positive thing is, now that's all been upgraded to Cat 6 as well. So, there's always something when we do these things. So, and thanks to Applied Innovation to send up that crew as quickly as they did. It was like, oh gosh, it's going to be 2 or 3 days before they get back up here. No, they were back up here on Monday.
Oh, that's nice.
So appreciate everything they did. And our new Wi-Fi modules should be working as well. Is that turned on today?
Well, they were supposed to be working.
Okay.
Obviously, there's some technical glitches that we gotta work out, but.
That's the black screen.
Yeah. So anyway, glad to be that project's almost behind us.
So I know one comment you made when you were talking about this earlier was all your cabling prior to this, all the feeds running back to the servers and whatnot were not labeled.
They're not labeled.
These are now labeled?
Yes.
Everything is labeled.
So-
We know exactly where everything's going from. When you
That's
plug it back
huge.
there, you know
That
exactly
is.
where it's going.
Yeah.
That is huge. If you have a problem, you can actually maybe find it.
We actually have a network map for that part of it now, for the first time.
Good news.
Yes, it's more than good news. And they removed a ton of old cable that, like I said, they only broke 2 tiles, and we were expecting when we initially put our project together and presented to you folks, it was like 20-some thousand, almost $30,000 with a tile replacement that we were expecting would have to be redone, and we didn't have to do that.
Yay!
So just a really good company to work with. Sometimes things once in a while they work out, but like I said, then we had that hiccup, and I was like, oh well, it got fixed, and then we got brand new cable, which is where we wanted to be anyway. Everything is Cat 6 now. So another upgrade that we had take place, and we talked about many months ago, was our BSNA moving from Invoice Cloud to BSNA payments. For me, on the building side, this is wonderful because now I can just tell people to go online to pay for building permits, and before, instead of sending the front desk to do their credit cards. well, yeah, let's see here, transportation here at City Hall, our payment kiosks are working, no problem, and I think we got the library up and running with the little touchpads as well for their payment of what Aaron had told me today.
We're getting there. It's not quite there.
Not
We're
quite
getting
there
there.
yet? Okay.
We're closer.
So that's the last one we had to do. So we'll be all up in the new system. Nothing so far has made it to my desk with people saying they haven't been able to figure out, the changeover from Invoice Cloud to the BSNA payments. We've had a couple people stop that I know of because they've asked me, I want to change this.
Just jinx yourself.
Yeah, well, do it anyway. Folks have come in and getting those changed over. I was surprised how many folks have automatic payments for their utility bills using their credit cards, because there is a,
Yeah, I had to really read through my insert in my water bill to remember how I am automatically paying.
paying out your ACH.
Yes.
Which, comes
Because
right
it's like,
to-
oh, wait a minute, do I have to
This does
change
continue
something?
ACH payments?
Yes,
Yes.
this is, they're separate.
Just making sure.
No, that's why I read through.
I have an account with DTE for maintenance of equipment, stuff like that, and all of a sudden I was told to pick a new way of payment, and the ACH was not on that, so it's now
Really?
costing me $3 a month for fees on top of that, so I may be looking for someplace else.
No, so we encourage folks that don't want to pay the fee to use the ACH. So, but on the auditing side of things, it does bring our system into compliance with the PCI, which is a very good thing. But just the sheer convenience of being able to pay for things online is huge. I mean, it's all the way across the board. FOIAs too, because we got seems like all the time FOIAs are getting more and more of those things. So it's easy to just have them pay them online. So so far so good. Flyers went out. Did put a copy of the flyer in your newsletter, but we also put it on Facebook and on our city newsletter. All right, this one's going to be a little more a bit bigger discussion. I'm going to have Dave jump up to talk about it. Coming up this year, these are our last few projects for our drinking water SRF, West Center Street and North State Street. These two projects are going to be done simultaneously because they basically connect with each other. And the North State Street project was basically to be a continuation of our water main project we did a few years ago. We went about halfway up State Street using the ARPA dollars that we received from the county. And this project would continue that up from the mid-block of State up to Superior Street to connect that loop.
We put it in basically for the hotel, didn't we? Just- yeah.
Well, that's just,
Yeah.
yes, that's the
Yeah,
impetus of it, but it also
That
helps
pushed
with-
it forward.
Yes, it
Pushed it forward to the hotel.
for our redundancy for the downtown. As we look at State Street, we have some other issues. It's just back in the day, we didn't have individual laterals coming out from the buildings. The ones we did have individually coming out have been subdivided over time. So we have pipes that are interconnected between spaces that weren't forward-thinking enough to have agreements made with each other. If something happens here, that you allow me to fix my problem because your problem is my problem. And sometimes people don't like to work with each other when it comes to those things. Plus, it also now, it really, we have ordinances that don't allow for those interconnections. So what Dave will talk about to bring up to speed on what we'd like to do and get this board's ultimate approval is to create individual sewer laterals for those businesses that don't have them. Dave will speak to the details on how that will work. And then finish, right now the sanitary sewer comes off Center Street, heads north about mid-block there as well, and stops. And we'd like to finish a piece from there to Superior Street, which also has some benefits there as well. But I'll let Dave talk a little bit about the logistics of it. And I know here we are, we're almost ready to start this project in April. But we think it's important to take it on probably, now is the time to deal with it. But I'll turn it over to Dave.
Well, that was a good presentation for it. Eric got basically the nuts and bolts of, the 100,000 foot view of it. I'm Dave Ringel, Public Services Director. Thank you for clarifying that. Indeed, I haven't lost my mind, contrary to popular belief. There's other ways where I have. This isn't one. That project was designed with the SRF project in conjunction with it. So the concern was anything water related. So we put together our street projects and looked at trying to finish it up. And this is one that we did a couple of years ago where we had the 12-inch that we connected from Center Street to approximately the north halfway point, which is where the funds got us, with the idea that in the future we would connect it and extend it. So the intent behind this project was to literally grab right onto that because it's set right up to take it right from the termination point, go to the north, just south of Superior Street, 45 it into Superior Street at the south end and connect that water. In the last, over the fall and the winter, it's become to my attention by a few people that there is a sewer issue in the making at the south block. And I don't want to throw them under the bus because there's a problem brewing probably with everybody on there. And the idea was if I don't look at doing something now, what will happen in 3 to 5 years? No one wants, in fact, there was an audience member here, nobody wants a new street surface with a fresh road cut in it. Nobody worse than me. So the idea is, I know there's a prospective issue at the South Brewing, there could be another one, and as the city manager pointed out, there's shared laterals. There's several of those that have one lateral that serve 2 to 3 buildings. One of them where there's a problem is, there's a problem with the lateral, and it goes underneath of the adjoining property to the north. Their portion has been fixed, but the portion that they drain into, they can't fix because the property owner's saying, sorry about your bad luck, I own this. So you're not tearing out my floor. You're not gonna take me out of business. And that's a problem. Hence, with our ordinance, and I think probably all of them in the state of Michigan, you can't have a shared lateral for that reason. And over the years, anybody that has a building, it becomes expensive to maintain those, so you subdivide them off. It starts off as a rental, turns into a, why don't you just buy it and get out of, then I don't have to get in the rental business. This is common up in Northtown Plaza. There's one, the old Kmart building where that's happening. We're addressing that as we speak. So those have been subdivided out, they have shared laterals. Well, the idea is to keep the south half of that street that's already in existence, and with the SAD, just like when we do the street project, special assess every property that's connected to State Street. Replace the laterals that are existing, because I just finally got sewer footage. Consumers is doing a number of gas replacements around town. I was able to snag some of their television footage, and I actually reviewed that this afternoon, because I wanted to see, the big question is, what is that existing sanitary sewer like? We don't want to leave a junk main in there. The laterals, there's a couple laterals that are in tough shape, meaning that they actually were able to launch the camera and go up the laterals. So that's the first time I've seen footage where we've launched laterals. We didn't, but the contractor launched laterals. And there's a couple of them that have holes and some issues with piping. The laterals are more concerning to me than the main. The main is actually in good shape, the existing one. It is very deep. It's spots of it that are 10 foot, some of them goes up to 8 foot. But that main looks like it's worth salvaging. There's nothing wrong with that main. It's holding up. The laterals are problematic, so the idea would be replace the existing laterals, place new laterals to connect to the existing businesses or properties, the properties that exist, so that if there is an issue in the future, they can connect to a sanitary sewer lateral without tearing up the street. Then take it from its existing midpoint, approximately just south of midpoint where that main stops, extend it to the north, just south of State Street, so that any of the businesses along that north half can connect to a main, and they'll already have laterals if this moves forward, where they can connect to those laterals and not cut out the new street. The reason why we propose extending it to the north and looking at it for this reason is that project, when we put in for the water main, we're replacing the entire road surface as a part of it, just the road surface. You've heard me talk about mill and fills. That's what this project was. Put the water main in, mill the street, and there's a concrete road base underneath of that. That concrete road base is anywhere from 8 to 12 inches thick, depending on where you're at. So the idea was mill it, put in the water main, and just put new asphalt over it. Well, when we put the laterals across, I know there's a couple businesses in that north half that share laterals. There's one that I know of that takes 3 buildings, and the only way that they could disconnect it would be to somehow go to Superior Street. So if it's not extended to the north, they really don't have an option to connect unless there is a main in State Street. So trying to head those problems off that are in the future. If we decide to replace the entire main, that project, the budget balloons. Right now, the project cost that I've estimated around $165,000 extra to extend the sanitary sewer from the midpoint to the north and to add the laterals. That would, and because that's already torn up as a part of the water main and the sanitary sewer, that concrete road base is junk, that's gone. There's nothing really worth saving in there. So what we would do is put gravel back in there, reconstruct it as a normal road, but the curb and things would still be there other than where we have to run laterals.
You're talking about State Street?
Correct, State Street between Center and Superior.
Up to Center, all right, thank
The
you.
other advantage is to not do anything with the south half is I can stay out of Center Street because Center Street, if we do that, that intersection will be closed for a minimum of 2 weeks because that's a pretty hefty sanitary that runs underneath Center Street, and that's where it ultimately drains to, so. That's really the gist of it. So if the commission decides they want to move forward with it, we can have an SAD prepared for the next meeting and have a traditional SAD like we've done with street projects in the past.
Who's the first question?
And just the SAD would be on the laterals for the different property owners. What we're proposing is $167,000 to put in that last piece of main to connect to what we currently have is the number that Dave's talking about. That would come out of our sewer budget to pay for that.
So that last section that's running the north part going, it's going to run north to Superior, it's not going to run back towards Center?
It will run to the south. What we would do, it's hard to do a freestyle on this without being able to point to the map.
Yeah, I know.
No, you're fine, but.
Beam footage.
Right, so roll that beautiful street footage. So anyhow, right now the termination point for the sanitary is just south of mid-block, and it drains to the south, as the mayor talked about. What we would do is extend this to the north, and it would still drain to the south. So that slope that it's running at, right now it's kind of steep. We would run it at the minimum, trying to keep it as deep as you can, and it would still drain to the south.
Okay, so I guess at one point you talked about tying in on Superior.
Yes, that's the water main, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was water,
Yes, that's the
okay.
water main.
I was confusing the two.
Thank you. You know, any businesses along there, I do want to mention that if it is moved forward, putting the sanitary in, it's the elevation that it is. So if there's any deep basements, and I know there's one up there, I make no guarantee that it will gravity into that sanitary sewer main because it's a deep basement. That sanitary's deep, but it's not that deep. So if anybody has a restroom or any kind of facilities in their basement, there'll have to be a sewer ejector crock, or we would abandon it and put it in line, because the laterals can only be the depth of the main. You can't go any deeper than that.
You don't want them.
There's people that proposed it, yeah, and it's an unwitting argument.
Water will find a way.
Yes, and this is different, this is the other
It's not
water.
good water.
No, correct.
Yeah.
But we would put everyone on there, all the properties along there.
So if everyone was to hook onto these new laterals, we'd eliminate all of the multi-building hookups.
The way they are currently, yes.
All those multis could be taken out of service.
Yeah, unless somebody wants to subdivide a small building, because I'm right now with the
And
special assessment.
we need to stop that. I mean, doesn't make sense for fire and sewer and water and everything.
Water and sewer are a major pain because I can bore you for another 20 minutes on the water problems.
Well, we've run into it with roofs and fire
You can't
codes
shut
and everything
people
else. That just get-
Well, with the sanitary, that is an issue, that there's a couple buildings right now that I know that there is a problem, and they're just saying, and this one just popped up, I mean, quite honestly, it just popped up this last fall, and we've known about these issues since the stormwater diversion project, and right now the road's gonna be cut up, this is the time to deal with it, to add those laterals, and if there's a plastic one, and I know there is one based on the footage, that they won't get special assessment.
That makes sense, I think.
And we put the clean outs in the sidewalks, so the idea would be they connect to the sidewalk, and we'll put clean out caps on them, and
Just give someone an option, because it gets real expensive real quick, and then if you can't get cooperation with someone, it just makes life a lot harder.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you, Dave. What else you got here?
And then, and just mention also with the street projects right after that project is done. We're gonna get started on the Austin South River project, which is over by Hillcrest School. We talked about that many months ago now. There's no water, availability on a good portion of South River there, and then there's issues with sewer interconnections, like Dave was mentioning there, with houses being daisy-chained together, so removing those and getting them lateral. So that'll get started as soon as that one's done, and we're looking right now just after Labor Day or Memorial Day weekend, but it just depends on how things go. And then, as always, until it's done, we have some photos of the expansion of the transportation building.
Have we had the public input on River Street and stuff? Has there been public input on that yet?
We've done the...
I haven't had the residents meeting yet.
We've done the special assessment districts.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're past that point?
Yeah, we...
Okay, all right.
It's the North River by Hillcrest School.
I know there have been people here talking about it, I just didn't remember whether we had officially passed that.
That special assessment district has been set, and Dave, what he's talking about, he'll go out or invite them here to go over the plans and who to contact if you have this issue, and what you should expect with driveways and trash removal and all that fun stuff that happens during the construction period.
Good. Any more questions for Eric? Or Dave, I guess.
Yep.
All right, okay, we have a motion and support on the table. All those in favor of receiving the city manager's report, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried. We've received your report. Thank you, Eric. Now, we'll move back up on our agenda to D, our hearing. We are to hold a public hearing at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the agenda will allow to consider a final special assessment district number 1 of 2024 for construction of a sanitary sewer leads on Pine Avenue.
Move to open the hearing.
Support.
We have a motion support. Comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried and we have a hearing. Dave, jump right up there. Hi, Dave. Next time we'll buy you a seat a little closer.
Yeah, if I was smart, I would have stayed up here, but that would caught me off guard. This will be a first as well. I'm going to freestyle this one, so bear with me. Shouldn't be overly technical, but there is going to be a big question. So, if anybody can remember back in their way back machines, this is Pine Avenue from Washington up to Warwick. If anybody remembers the anxiety of the room that night, there were several large laterals that we were looking at special assessing. Some of them were upwards of 30,000, where we were concerned about multiple laterals on one property. Pleased that my hunch was right. They were not connected, and so they were not connected to Pine, and that's kind of what logic looked like, but you never really know because until you dig it up. So saved a bunch of bills there because I'm pleased to report that we reduced the anxiety. But the big question is, when you look over it, there's a lot of properties and there's not a whole lot of special assessment activity. There's a great big goose egg, and it's not in honor of Easter coming up for the egg. They're really, we contracted the engineering out because that's an MDOT project. We had the field work done on that by Roll Professional Services. They were keeping track of any laterals that we had, and we had no laterals that needed to be replaced. So what that means was they were either plastic or they weren't connected to the main. And the question that I have looking at it is, how is that possible? Other than when you dig it up, it's not plastic, or excuse me, it was plastic. But in reality, if you look at the map, I just want to make sure that I point this out, is that really the only block that we were dealing with as far as the concerns for existing sanitary is that first block could be the east side of Pine Avenue and south of Chatterton. That's really the residential district. If you look at the west side, that's the school. Those buildings to the north, those doctor's offices, what is now the new funeral home, used to be a dentist office, those buildings have been built within the last 20, 25 years. Those are plastic. The schools, they had one that's existing, that's connecting, but that's not on the street, that's not a part of special assessment. That too was not clay or anything of that nature. That block, mid-block, where the retirement home is, that too was brand new, but that one connects to the east side onto Carnahan Street. And those houses also connect, those were plastic when those were put in too.
Really?
So the only area that we're really looking at is that residential district to the south. If I go back from rough memory, there were a couple of road breaks in there prior to, don't quote me on the houses, but I do remember there were some road cuts in there, so it looks like those were replaced, so no one will get a bill for that special assessment project, which is unique based on the length
Well,
of
there's
that. I will
nobody
say
here.
it's that's a first.
Yep. Good news.
So if there are no questions or anything, but that's
Pretty
a
amazing.
good project.
That is, that's amazing.
I would have lost money on that bet, I can tell you that much.
Okay, any questions on, it's a public hearing, are there members of the public who would like to come forward and ask a question? Seeing none, even in the room, we'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Have a motion and support, last chance for comments or questions. Hearing none, all those in favor please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Now, we're to consider a resolution to approve the final special assessment district roll number 1 of 2024 for construction of sanitary sewer service leads on Pine Avenue.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Have a motion support, comments or questions? Not going to be a big revenue item. All those in favor please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on down to F, request for purchase. We are to consider a resolution to approve a request for purchase to FAAC Incorporated for a total amount of $57,471, which includes 3 years of extended warranty in exchange of the Milo system and program at the end of 3 years. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Oh, that's the shit, okay.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Can you give some more background on
Yeah,
this
this is
one?
the training system that we bought in conjunction with the CTE program and the RESD and some other interested law enforcement agencies around the county. It was completely funded by the Lunia Foundation, a grant from the state of Michigan. At the time, there were still some of the ARPA monies were coming through. We're at that point now that the software and all that needs to be paid for again because there's a time on that lease. This is used not only training for, like I mentioned, for our department, and it's not just a like a shooting theater. It's also scenario driven as well, of domestic violence type scenarios or any active shooter scenarios. So anything that you could dream of, this helps with getting officers ready for that. It's also used in the CTE program there, the law enforcement program that they have at the school, so hopefully training the next generation of law enforcement officers. And then, of course, it's used by anybody in law enforcement across the county.
Okay, who has the first question? One comes to mind. I assume this is going to be, continue to be used by various entities? Are they contributing to
Yes,
these?
there are some contributions from my understanding, yes.
Do we know what it's going to be?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'll tell them I didn't do that.
I guess, should it be equitable? I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd like to know who else contributing. You named a number of entities that are going to use this. I'd like to know what kind of value they're finding in it. Is this something we have to approve tonight, or can we wait until we get a little more information? I'm not opposed to it, but you said the schools, I assume other law enforcement of the county, St. Louis, Ithaca, Breckenridge,
They have access to
sheriffs,
it, yeah.
they have access, or do they use it?
So all programs, it's my understanding that all of those entities use it. The school pays $4,500 a year currently through their CTE program as towards it. To my knowledge, it is not being paid for by anyone else because everyone else was part of like the Luniac Foundation grant that got it. So, but the school does currently pay $4,500 annually from the CTE program to use it.
Okay.
To my knowledge, they're the only ones currently paying to it because everyone else was part of the grant to originally get it.
Right, and the grant is no longer possible, I assume that
Yeah, I believe that is true.
okay.
Mark did indicate to me that he would be going out to seek grants to pay for the cost, or reimburse the cost.
Well, I guess I'd like to see the success on that first would be but others, comments?
I don't have a problem with the way that it's proposed.
Do we know, like percentage-wise, is it primarily our people that use it, or do we don't know any of that?
I don't know. This
Okay.
Yeah, that's more information I think I'd like to have, but, I mean, it's a good chunk of money for,
Right, and that, I mean, I think we've had these
I'm not opposed to
discussions.
training, but.
No, me either, and I think we've had these discussions before when we get a grant for something, and it's all well and good for the 3 years, or 5 years, or 10 years of the grant, but then we have to figure out a way to fund it afterwards. I mean, did we have that as part of our budget planning, that we were gonna pay the whole thing?
We're not at that part of the budget yet.
Well, the other thing that concerns me is if we're seeking grant money or contributions from other entities, once it's paid for, their incentive to contribute, if they really want to see this thing, their incentive to contribute is like nil. It's
Right.
paid for, why would we contribute, you know?
Right, yeah, I'm not.
Not that they're not
against-
good partners or
Yes, and
anything,
I'm not
but-
against the training, and we may end up, that it's worth it for us to pay that, but just because it was a grant that is no longer a grant currently, I also, if it's not something that has to be decided tonight, or is it something that has to be decided tonight?
Do we know when the contract ends? We're extending the contract, right? It says warranty, but I assume this is like software licensing?
It's software and.
It's licensing, not warranty, right? It's not-
Yeah.
And it's like, is there a timeline that we're getting a better deal if we do it by a certain date, or, I mean, that, we don't know. Okay.
Here's the information was provided in the agenda packet.
Yeah, it
there.
Look at
says,
that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I don't think
only have
everyone
one.
tells us anything, does it?
no, I have it.
Starting the first of the month,
Read it.
you got taxes. It does not, it doesn't say when it runs out, actually, does it? No,
Like, probably a time frame.
3 installments, 20,000.
The warranty expires in 3 days, or 30 days, which the invoice date was 2/24, so it's gonna, the warranty, this invoice will, 3/24.
Which is the day of our next meeting.
And I would imagine that the company would work with them if
Yes,
it's
for the, I would think so.
that close in timing, so.
I agree, I'd like, it's 20,000,
Okay.
that's 20,000 bucks a year that we're just picking up.
I believe we have a motion and support on the table, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no?
No.
No.
No?
No.
Could I get hand votes just to be sure?
No.
I'm a no.
No,
So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 no's and 2 yeses, I believe, so that motion has failed. Thank you.
Can we just make a note to have that on probably our next meeting?
I suspect it will be,
Yeah.
they'll bring more information, I'm sure Mark and
Yeah.
Kendra, or whoever's running this. can do it.
Speak on tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Recommendation on bids. Consideration of a resolution to receive bids and approve the lease agreement with recommended bidder, who in this case is it Gaddy Farms? Gaddy Farms, for the purpose of crop farming the indicated acreage for a term of 5 years, ending on the earlier date of completion of the 2030 fall harvest or December 31st, 2030. Also to authorize the city manager to sign the agreement. And we had the following bids that were opened on Thursday, February 26th. We had 2 from Butcher Farms and 2 from Gaddy Farms. And Gaddy looks like it was the successful bidder on both of theirs, so your pleasure.
Move to adopt the recommended bidder of Gaddy Farms for both.
support?
Okay, we have a motion to support. Are there comments or questions?
I just wonder, why are we going with Gaddy Farms that are more expensive as I'm reading it correctly?
They're paying us.
They're paying
They're
us,
paying us.
we're leasing land
Okay.
that they're gonna farm.
Sorry,
It's our-
I was
it's our-
reading it backwards.
No, it's okay. It's in your packet. It's the property just
Yeah,
south
I read
of our
it
cemetery.
backwards,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, more questions? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Next, we are to consider a resolution to receive bids and approve an agreement for realtor services, which would be for the sale of 217, 219, and 221 North State Street, which are within the State Street Plaza, with the recommended bidder, who is Century 21 Lemac Realty. Also to authorize the city manager to execute the related documents. The following bids were received on March 5, 2026, and they were from both Century 21 Lemac and 43 North. And the recommended bidder is Century 21 Lemac because they gave us the lowest fees. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Okay, we have motion support. Any additional comments or questions?
Just, we did try to sell the building, ourselves. We had 3 I thought was serious, but it's at this point, it's just like, no, let's get it into a realtor's hand. This would be good for 6 months with another option to extend it another 6 months, if needed.
Before it comes back to us.
Before it comes back to you again.
Okay.
You said we had 3 tentative interests. Is there any clause in there that if one of those 3 end up purchasing it, that it's a different rate?
I don't know. That's,
I know on the residential side, typically you can work those in, but I didn't know on the commercial side.
yeah, like I said, I met with, I thought it was like 3 serious folks, walked the building and had multiple phone calls and just never got anywhere with it. So, in the past, we've, opened up these types of services just to put it out there.
Is that not the potential site for the railway station?
No,
It is not?
no, where we're demoing.
It's adjacent to.
Yeah, where
Adjacent
we're
to, okay.
demoing the Prospect building, that's where we were, a potential area.
Okay.
Yep. So,
Oh, this is for the other ones? Okay,
Yes.
right, I'm sorry.
For the other form, it's the old Kroger store.
Right, yeah, the big ones. The big ones. Yeah, I'm sorry.
you're okay.
Okay, any more questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Resolutions. We are to consider a resolution to ratify the investment of city funds. Before us tonight, we have 3 different investments, 1 CD and 2 cedars, ranging from 3.45 to 3.79 rates. So your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Support.
A motion support. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. They're ratified. Next, consideration of a resolution to approve the fiscal year 2026 budget amendments as presented.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Okay, we have motion and support. Comments or questions?
Yeah, just 2 small items, and they both have to do with grant revenues that we received. The first is for our Business Incubator Innovation Development Center, working with the college. This is a PO that the City Commission approved for the engineering and architecture of $95,500. So it's moving that into that fund to be paid. And then the library expenditure budget of $43,000 for the children's new shelving in the young adult section, which again, the commission approved that PO a few months ago, and that was funded through some donations.
Good news, nothing in the general fund.
General fund, nope. It's just a housekeeping thing that Curtis needs to do.
Okay. That's why he's getting good audits, right? Because he's keeping up on his homework.
That's right.
Thank you, Curtis. Any additional comments or questions? I hear none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next, agreements. We are to consider a resolution to approve a 1-year extension to the 2025 1-year contract with NutriGrow Environmental Solutions, which is for the removal and disposal of liquid sludge from the Elma Wastewater Treatment Plant, and to approve the related request for purchase and authorize the mayor to execute the related agreement. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Okay. I know the mayor gets to sign the sludge agreement.
We want that removed.
Yeah.
High point of your day.
Yes.
They're holding their numbers for us. So, there's only 2 companies that really do this, so they're holding our numbers, so let's.
And there's always questions on if there's going to be anybody doing this in the future.
That's right.
Okay, other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next, consideration of a resolution to approve a change order to the agreement with Zenberg Asphalt for stripe and seal of downtown parking lots pursuant to the similar work bids provision in the city's procurement policy to add stripe and seal of 5 city parking lots in the amount of $21,585.57 for a contract total of $40,786.57. Your pleasure thereof.
Move to adopt.
Support.
got a motion support.
At our last meeting, we approved the downtown parking lots and Scotland Yard Park to be seal coated, 2 coats and striped. Knowing that we had all these other parking areas in our other parks, downtown, the rail trail parking lot on Prospect, Charles Avenue, Park and Ride, Riverside Park, King Park parking lot, Conservation Park with the different parking lots there, and then the main lot there at Wright Park, needing seal coating and striping. We reached out to the contractor, we got the low bid that we approved last meeting and asked if he would be willing to hold those costs for those parking lots, and he said yes, he would do that. So we're bringing that to you tonight to get those accomplished as well. 2 coats, a seal coat, and striping.
Extending life.
Extending life.
Sounds like a deal.
Finally doing maintenance on things. That's some really good news. Okay, comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for looking into that. It's a smart move. Smart move, Dave Ringville.
Dave's
Thank
idea
you.
to
Write that
see if
down.
they can
Yeah, I'm making a note.
We have deferred a lot of maintenance over the last
Yeah, no, but that was
couple decades.
good to go in when we've already got, I mean, it's good thinking ahead.
It's even within our budget too.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
So, appropriations. Do we have an interest in paying bills?
Yes, please, I make a move to pay the appropriations.
Thank you, Roxanne.
I will second that.
We have support. Are there questions about the bills? I hear none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Commissioner comments. Danny, you want to lead off tonight?
Nothing else, thank you.
Hey, Roxanne.
I do have a question. When we were talking about that software, Curtis, and I asked if it had been budgeted, and you said we haven't gotten to that point in the budget, but it's due to be renewed in 2 weeks or whatever?
Well, the agreement started in August, so it'll be in next year's budget. The budget we're working on. We just have to have the agreement ahead of time before it expires. So we've already budgeted, we've already paid it for the current fiscal year we're in.
Okay.
And then the renewal will kick in next year because it'll cover next year's fiscal budget. That's the budget we're
But we
currently
paid
working
for
on.
it previously with grant money, not our money?
The portion that's already been paid for this year was part of the grant money. This extension will be
Correct.
next year. This is
Correct.
what we would have to build into next year's budget.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to understand. So we approve it before we figure out where the money's coming from, is what I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, you're right.
your
If you
answer
approve it,
was.
I have to figure out how to get it next year's budget, yes.
Okay, so we don't know where we would pull it from. At this point, we don't know.
Yeah,
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. So I'm glad we
It would
put
be
it off to get some
police
more.
department's budget. It would be police department that would then have to figure out
Right, they would have to figure out how to.
Correct.
do it. So
which
he
part of their
would
budget, where they're going to
Yeah,
cut
he would
elsewhere.
Pay for it out of his.
Yeah.
It's a good.
No, it is a
I
good
just
point.
wanted to understand, that's not my strength, and we're approving it now, and I know, but it isn't renew until August, so it's not part of the current budget. Okay, thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Anything else, Roxanne?
No, I don't have anything to
All
say.
right, Roger.
Just to let you know, all the construction is completed at the Playhouse. There is a new ceiling in, which you can't even see by looking up there. It's all black and dark, not falling down on anybody. The seats are back down as of last week, and production is underway for Dearly Beloved, which is a funny play with probably about 60% new faces, which is really kind of neat. Yep.
Same bodies, but new faces.
Yeah, we have a way of doing that.
That's part of the construction budget. Everybody got new faces.
Interesting. We'll have to see that one. We'll check it out. All right, anything else, Rod?
That'll do it, thank you.
Sonia? Michelle? Sarah? Eric?
Just thanks to the commission for coming early for the work session and having a conversation about their good things. Talking about possibilities of adding assets to the community. So thank you for taking the extra time today.
No, and I'd add my thanks to the commission for coming in early. Appreciate that, and to the county Parks Commission and the County Board of Commissioners that are considering gifting us with this opportunity. So we do appreciate that as well. there aren't any members of the public in the room, but if any members of the public would like to address the commission, please go to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to share your thoughts.
Except Dave.
I'm still seeing no one, so therefore would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Support.
We have a motion to support. Last chance for comments or questions. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.